What happens when one of the world's biggest powers decides to fully unleash innovation by minimizing regulatory barriers, while on the other side of the ocean, an entire union debates how to ensure technological growth without compromising fundamental rights? If you guessed the United States on one side and the European Union on the other, you're on the right track. But here is the real question. Can Europe, armed with a 200 billion euro investment in artificial intelligence, hold its own on the global stage without getting stuck in suffocating bureaucracy? Welcome to Diritto al Digitale, the podcast exploring how technology and law intersect. I'm Giulio Coraggio, a data and technology lawyer at the global law firm DLA Piper. In this episode, we'll talk about how the push toward regulation, partly inspired by the former and newly elected President of the United States, Donald Trump, and Mario Draghi's reflections on the GDPR's potential hindrance, could reshape global competitiveness. All this while, the European Commission is rolling out a 200 billion European plan for artificial intelligence. Yet, also announcing that there will be no new regulation for innovation in the next 5 years. From the United States, we often hear about drastic cuts to rules and procedures, based on the idea that fewer bureaucratic hurdles mean more investment, more competition, and more jobs. The Trump presidency was a clear example. Was and is actually. Maximum freedom for businesses, especially in tech. On the other side, the European Union has built a strong regulatory framework over the years, with the GDPR becoming a global model for personal data protection, followed by the EU AI Act and on the wider Digital Digitale package of regulations. However, what initially looked like the EU's flagship achievement, strong protection of individuals' rights, has raised concerns. Some believe that this emphasis on privacy and security might slow down innovation, especially in areas like artificial intelligence, where data is the lifeblood of research and development. Mario Draghi, an influential figure in the European political and economic balance, has openly expressed concern that the GDPR and other regulations could become a bottleneck for European companies. In fact, various reports showed that local startups and European ones in general struggled with the lack of flexibility compared to the American and Chinese competitors. Recent data suggests that EU-based companies still make limited use of artificial intelligence and that the Union suffers a 30% GDP gap compared to the United States, partly due to slower adoption of new technologies. To bridge the gap, the European Commission has put 200 billion euros on the table for artificial intelligence development, an investment that many experts believe could become a real catalyst for Europe's digital economy, boosting the creation of high-level technological infrastructures, data lakes, and cutting-edge research centers. At the same time, there is debate on how these funds will be put to work. Will accessing them involve overly complicated procedures, or will we manage to turn them quickly into solutions, innovative startups, and patents that can compete on the global scale? It also raises questions about whether the EU might be sending mixed signals. Allocating 200 billion euros to artificial intelligence doesn't exactly align with regulations that restrict its use. For example, the GDPR limits the usage of legitimate interest as a legal basis for data processing in AI training, and the recent guidelines from the European Data Protection Board haven't offered much clarity. It's up to legislators or authorities to strike the right balance between legal compliance and business needs. Perhaps regulators or better authorities should adopt a less rigid, more entrepreneurial approach in the national interest, as it often done in English-speaking countries. After all, lawmakers can't keep up with technological innovation, so if authorities don't step in, we risk a dead end. In this scenario, companies that want to innovate may have to take risks, which is why we help our clients find the best solutions that are legally sustainable and still meet their business goals. Taking risks without any formal legal protection, even if only partial, simply doesn't make any sense. In this context, a potentially good piece of news made the headlines, delivered by Robert Viola, the Director General of DG Connect at the European Commission. During a conference in Brussels, he declared no new regulation coming from DG Connect in the next 5 years. It was a surprising announcement, met with a mix of relief and skepticism. Some see this message as a welcome breather for European businesses, allowing them to experiment without fear of ever tighter rules. Others worry that this lack of specific regulation might create a digital Wild West, particularly in sensitive areas like generative AI, biometrics, or cybersecurity, made more pressing by the war in Ukraine, which has brought digital defense to the forefront. Cyber attacks, protecting critical infrastructure, and the use of drones and artificial intelligence in military settings are becoming so prominent for the global economy. All of this adds another layer of complexity, because security is now a priority, and some countries fear that fewer regulation could weaken it. Despite the uncertainties, the promise of a 5-year window without new regulations from DG Connect, which means no new regulations of the European Union on innovation, could be a golden opportunity for the European businesses. Analysts suggest that the European Commission sticks to this plan, and if it does so, companies and startups might accelerate their adoption of new technologies without worrying about unexpected regulatory shifts, collaborate with governments on experimental projects through the so-called sandboxes, where artificial intelligence applications can be tested in controlled environments. Thirdly, they might leverage the €200 billion budget by investing in talent, computing infrastructures, and data sharing to remain competitive. Looking ahead, the biggest question is whether Europe can strike the right balance between safeguarding rights, ensuring security, and allowing free technological development. At a time when the United States and China are pouring huge sums into innovation at a rapid pace, some fear that the European Union could end up playing a secondary role might become really a serious risk. Experts suggest that Europe's extra gear might come from balanced regulations not absent, yet no stifling, and from major investments in talent development and the creation of synergistic ecosystem that brings together companies, universities, and governments. Over the past decade, Europe has led the way in data protection, becoming a global benchmark. At the same time, the challenge remains: how do we make the most of that €200 billion investment in artificial intelligence without letting regulatory hurdles and bureaucracy stifle innovation? Perhaps the answer lies in the concept of balance, recognizing the importance of protecting fundamental rights while also acknowledging the need to compete in global markets with that waits for no one. If Europe succeeds in blending these two achievements, it might just transform itself from a tortoise to a hare in the race for digital transformation. And this is all for today. Thank you very much for listening this episode of Diritto al Digitale. I'm Giulio Coraggio, and please send me an email at giulio.coraggio@dlapiper.com if you have comments, suggestions, topics that you want me to cover. And for the moment, I see you at the next episode. Arrivederci!